All right, we are recording. Awesome. So, hey, Rebecca, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. So, if you can just tell us who you are, tell us where you're from, and tell us a little bit about your childhood, like how you grew up and what life has looked like for you.
Okay. I am Rebecca Richardson, and I am from a very small town, and it's called Kinley, North Carolina. I grew up going to church with my family. Like my grandma and like my aunts and uncles, we all kind of went to the same church. And every Sunday we were there. Wednesday nights we were there. Sunday nights, most of the time we were there because we started eating have family dinners at my grandma's house on Sunday. So I'm not really sure when that started, but we all went to church together. Um, I got baptized with my brother. Let's see, I think I was maybe 8 or 9, and he was like 11 or 12. Um, so I got baptized really early. Church camp every summer at Cragmont. If anybody else went there, I loved it. I don't think my brother ever went, but that was because at my church the girls and the guys would go 2 different weeks, and every time the guys went, they would get in trouble. So I don't think my parents wanted my brother to go. He didn't want to be. They didn't want him to be involved with the troublemakers.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I never had any issues at church camp. But I loved it. And then, yeah, that's about how I grew up. Nothing really super spectacular or weird, just a small town girl going to church and school and everything, all in the same town. Um, and then when I was, so let's see, in November of 2006, my granddad got diagnosed with melanoma, and that's my dad's dad. He was the only granddad I knew, and me and my brother both. Well, my brother knew my mom's mom, but she passed away like a few months before I was born, so he probably didn't really remember her. So this was the only set of grandparents that we knew, and Reese was the first grandson, and I was the first granddaughter. Um, and so Reese was really upset when granddaddy got diagnosed with melanoma because they told him he may have only had like 5 years, which he had been diagnosed the year before Reese was born with melanoma, and they told him 5 years. And so at this point, it had been 17 years that my granddaddy had lived from melanoma, and it came back. And then that December, Reese turned 17 and I turned 14. Yeah. And in January, on January 1st, 2007, there was a head-on collision, not as maybe a mile away from my house. And Reese was the driver of one truck, and then another classmate of his was the driver of the other. And the two drivers died on impact. And it was a rainy Sunday night. I remember my dad and I were like joking around because my dad loves to joke. And there was a knock on the door, and I've never ever reacted to a knock at the door, but my stomach dropped to the floor. Like I knew something was wrong. Like me, mom, and dad were here, but I knew something was wrong with Reese, even though he was supposed to be down the road at my grandma's. And so dad went with them because they told him the guys in the other truck were supposed to stay with us that night because they were in high school, and so they had like exam break, and so they were going to go hunting the next morning. And so the guys that came up to the door were like, it's so and so's truck, and it looks like a Mustang. They didn't think it was Reese's truck, but and it had caught on fire and everything. So dad went straight with them, and then me and mom got ready like to go back out because it was in January, so it was cold and it was raining. So we got ready and we left to go. And when we got in the car, sorry, my grandma was calling me.
Oh no, you're good.
Um,
I was like, where?
I'm on my iPad, so it
Okay.
came through on my iPad. So when we got in the car and left, there was a like first responder or some vehicle that went in front of us, and so I already didn't feel good about it, but then seeing that, it was like, oh crap, like something's really wrong, like
Yeah.
somebody's hurt. So and it was like I already knew that Reese was gone in somehow, some way, like I already knew it. And so when we pulled up to the crash site and got out of the car, I heard this like gut wrenching like moan. It wasn't like a scream. It was just like someone in deep, deep pain. And so we couldn't even see the wreck because of all of the fire trucks and the ambulance and everything that was out there and flashing lights. And it was right beside Interstate 95. So there's cars like blazing by on one side, and but we couldn't see the wreck from where we parked because we couldn't get that close to it because there was stuff like I think the whole fire department came out there. And
Yeah.
but I heard that gut wrenching moan, and I was like, for a like split second, I felt relief. I was like, oh, Reese is okay. It's fine. Everything's gonna be fine. Reese is fine. Like it's okay. He's just may have to go to the hospital or whatever. And then about the time that I felt that relief, I saw my dad and in between two firefighters. So the two firefighters were holding him up, walking to the walking on the street towards us because I was told later that they didn't, they must not have seen my dad. And my dad made it up to Reese's truck and was like, tried to jump in. And Reese wasn't, I mean, they had already, but he thought Reese was in there because the trucks had caught on fire.
Right.
And so, dad tried to get in Reese's truck thinking he was going to get him out. And then they had to tell him. So that was him making that gut wrenching moan. And at 14, just turned 14 a month ago, I had never lost anybody close in the family. Like when I was in fifth, so I was in eighth grade at this point. When I was in fifth grade, our pastor died, but I wasn't that close to him, and he was like 70 in the 70s. So that makes, like, so this was the first time that I lost someone in my family. And so
And
at
like
first I just sat,
dramatically too,
yeah, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
like unexpected. Yeah. So I just sat there and I was like, I don't even know what to do. Like, I'm pretty sure I probably got out there, but like thinking about it now, like I can still see the firefighters bringing my dad towards me and my mom, and then like me, mom, and dad hugging, and like dad crying. But like, and I cried because mom and dad were crying, and I knew that Reese was gone, but it was just like almost like I didn't want to believe it. So I just kind of like went through the motions. Um, so that was a crazy night and a crazy week. Like we had a ton of people in the house. Um, it was just crazy. And so like the local, I mean, our high school lost two students at one time because the other boy died on impact as well. So like I'm sure it was very hard for like the high schoolers and stuff.
Mhm.
And and then there was the rumors and stuff, and so that didn't help. And then a few months later, I think in April, my granddad ended up passing away as well. um, so I went from like never really losing anybody in my family to suddenly losing my brother, and then my granddaddy got sicker and sicker, and so we knew his time was coming, and then he passed away. So after he passed away, my family and I, we went to grief counseling. And so I think by this time I was in ninth grade when we went to grief counseling. And I'm really glad that we did, because there's things that I know that I've learned about grief, and I'm pretty sure it's through grief counseling. And I just thought that everybody knew it, but clear. Now I have a friend who recently went to like a grief share group, and she was telling me some of the stuff that she learned, and I was like, oh yeah, you didn't know that, like, didn't everybody know this? And because I learned it at such a young age, that I just thought it was like common knowledge, but it's not. Like, grief is a tough thing, and I would definitely encourage anybody who is battling grief to go to grief counseling. Like, it may be uncomfortable at first, because my parents told me that I didn't want to go at first, and so that's understandable, because you don't want to go and talk to someone that you don't know about like intimate details of your life and how you feel about something, but they can really help, because even though I've been through the loss of a sibling, um, I'm involved with the youth group at my church, and back this past November, um, her brother passed away in a car accident as well, and that just shook me. Like, and I've tried to help her as much as I can, but there are some things that I just can't do. Like,
Sure.
Um, and I'll try to help anybody that I can that is going through grief of a sibling, especially sudden loss. Um, but there's just some things that we can't do as humans. Um, and I mean, a counselor can't fix it all, but a counselor can help, you know, put put things together and give you things to do. Like, my counselor gave me like worksheets and stuff to do. So like, even now, like if I'm missing Reese, I'll go and sit down and write Reese a letter about how I feel about what's going on, because if he were here and alive today, I wouldn't have to write him a letter. I could just tell him.
Right.
But it's just keeping his memory alive. Um, and so now I'll go on to about the tattoo.
Yeah.
So my freshman year of college, I was at Campbell, and some of my roommates, they had, I mean, not my roommate, but my suite mates, they had tattoos. And so I was thinking about getting a tattoo in memory of Reese. And so my suite mates were really nice, and like, they helped me. One of them helped me like draw some stuff up, and she did a really good job. But it was just like his name and angel wings and his birthday and death date. And I was like, well, I kind of want something different than that, because like, I know his name, and I know when he was born, and I know when he died. Like, I don't need to have that on my body to remember that, or to be able to tell people. So um, I was home for Christmas break that year. Um, I don't. I guess I probably prayed about it, but I don't really remember now, being so long ago.
Yeah.
And so I was at home for Christmas break, and I know it had to be after Christmas. So it was like right before we went back to school. And I woke up one morning, and I have a pillow that's like beside my head. I like to sleep with a bunch of pillows. So there was this little note that was like, it was probably like this big. It was a little tiny piece of paper. And the side facing up was the I Heart You Sis in Reese's handwriting. And so this is 5 years after his accident.
Wow.
And right before his accident, maybe a year and a half or so before his accident, we moved into a new house that my parents built. So this isn't the house we grew up in. And this, and then on the other side of the note, it was my handwriting from when I was a little girl. And it was like, this is a little notepad or something, like, and I could tell it was my handwriting from a little girl, because, my handwriting's changed.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, wow. Like, and there's no way it came out of a book or anything. It was just on my pillow. Like, the Lord had to lay it there, because he probably didn't write it in this house.
Yeah.
Like, he wrote it years before his accident. And
Right.
this is years after his accident. Um, so it was just, crazy. And so fast forward 8 years, and my cousins decide they're going to get Roman numeral 11 on their wrists, because Reese's number was 11. He was born on December 11th, and his number was 11 through soccer. and the Lord shows us 11s as like as a whole family, like my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my grandma, especially my parents, and me will all see 11s whenever we have any like trouble or anything. Like I remember being at Campbell one time, and I was like worried, like I don't think I should be here, like I don't know what I'm gonna do, like I don't know why I'm here. And a girl walked by and she had a number 11 jersey on. And so I was like, okay, like thanks God, like I'm okay here then. Um, so they decided to get Roman numeral 11s on their wrist at the 1st of January. And I was going to do that, but then I was like, well, he was my brother and we had a different connection, it's a different relationship. And so I went back to the I Heart Eustace little piece of paper because when I found that, I was like, this is what I'll get tattooed on my wrist. And at the time, like being back in school, I was like, well, I'm not going to get on my wrist right now because I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And so I decided once they got their Roman numeral 11, I was like, I'm going to get this. And so I prayed about it for 2 weeks because I work with kids in church and stuff, and I want to make sure that I'm going to glorify God and not, be a stumbling block for someone.
Sure.
And so January 21st of this year, I go to get my tattoo. And I got really nervous because I was really scared it was going to hurt really bad. And so, like, my wrist, like, was hurting all day. And I'm in the waiting room. And so I got really, really nervous. And so I was like, okay, Lord, if you want me to walk out, I will walk out right now. Like, I do not have to do this. I will walk out. I don't even care. And as soon as I finished that prayer, a peace came over me, like you are where you need to be and you're fine. And I've got you. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so I took my parents because I always told them if I get a tattoo, I will take y'all with me, especially since it was for Reese. And so we go back there, and the tattoo artist asked us, how are you today? Well, my dad, anytime you ask him how he's doing, he will say one day closer to heaven. No matter who you are, no matter where he's at, he will say one day closer to heaven. And so this man, the tattoo artist, was like, I like that. I don't know if my wife told you or not, but I'm a pastor. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know pastors were tattoo artists.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool. And so we talked about it, like he asked me who the tattoo was for. And so I told him it was my brother's handwriting. This is the 13th anniversary of his death and all of that stuff. And him and his wife had actually lost a son too. And so we just talked the whole time. It didn't take very long at all. And so after we got up and we were getting ready to walk out, and he was like, well, before we walk out, let's all hold hands and I'm going to pray for us. And so not only did I get a pastor to do my tattoo, he also took the time to pray for me and my family and for my faith and stuff. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience. Like, I don't think I've ever been so full than I was that night. Like, I knew that that's what God wanted me to do.
Yeah. Wow, that's so special. Like that was definitely ordained and that time was appointed by God. That's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a question for you because you experienced loss like very quickly and at a young age. And, I know you personally, right? We went to college together and I remember like you were just so sweet and so kind. Did you ever get to a point where you like were ever angry at God or questioned like why did you take these people away? Because I feel like that's a really normal reaction. But for someone that loses two very important people like very quickly, I mean, how did that impact your faith?
Um, I don't remember going through an angry phase or like, why God, and I don't know if that was just because I was young or I really don't know why.
Yeah,
Or if it was because I went to counseling and talked that out.
sure.
But I don't think that I went through that. Um, Looking back, I don't think I did. I may have and just, blocked it out of my mind so I wouldn't remember it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that it definitely grew my faith. Like, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be who I am today. Like, no doubt in my mind, like, I don't know if I would be involved in church the way I am and if I would have the faith that I have if this didn't happen. Like, I know that God is real because of this.
Yeah, that's good. That's so true. Well, and you probably, I mean, I think that's a great message for people because you pretty quickly went to grief counseling. And I think we see too often where people go to counseling way after an event and like way after they've become angry and they've become super hurt and they've built up all of this anger and hurt and resentment towards a lot of people and towards God. And then that's when they go to counseling. But I think your message today, like how you went pretty quickly knowing like, let me be proactive about this. I need to process this with my family and with, a group and a counselor that can really help lead me and guide me in that way is awesome.
And we went to faith-based counseling. So our counselor was also a Christian. So that was very helpful. Because not only was it counseling to like get all of those out, it was also a counselor that would help us as far as like with our faith and like intertwine that together because as a Christian there's no separation um, of God from anything. He is in every part of your life and every piece of your life. So it was really good to have a faith-based counselor as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there is someone listening right now that was in your shoes, that has lost a sibling or lost anyone close to them in a traumatic experience. I've had grandparents die and it's been traumatic, but for someone young that is so unexpected to pass away, what would you tell them?
Oh, that's a hard question.
I know.
Um, Let me think. I think that is very important to go to God with your feelings, like because feelings and emotions are things that they come out and they come up in you and stuff, and just because you feel that way does not mean that it's the truth. Like you need to just take that to God. Like it doesn't, if you're angry with God, go to God about it. Like if you're questioning, go to God. Like the only thing I can really say is go to God with your heart and lay it out for him. Don't be nervous to like ask God why or be angry with God because he already knows. He already knows your heart and he wants you to turn to him. And if you turn to him and give it up to him honestly and like try to have that conversation, he may not give you an answer. Normally he's not going to answer like why you took this person from me. I don't think, but um, he will give you something in return, and that will probably be more like peace and love. He'll just wrap his arms around you in the way that he does. And we know that's not physically, but you will feel it in your heart and you'll know that the Lord is with you and that he appreciates you going to him. Like think about if it was your friend and you were mad at your friend for something, but your friend, like if it's your friend doesn't know. You have to go to your friend and be reconciled in that situation. It's kind of the same with the Lord. Like if you don't go to the Lord with your problems, then how are you going to be reconciled? How are you going to get the peace of God if you don't go to him and let him know how you truly feel?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's so good and so important for everyone to do at like any different stage because we think we have to come to God like full of faith and full of um, joy, and that's just not true all the time, right? Like God wants us to come when we're like, I'm mad at you and I hate you and I'm confused by you and I don't know what to do. That those are the moments where we we think that we need to stray away or look away, but those are the moments that are pivotal that we really need to look to him. So I think that's
Yeah, like the other night I was so overwhelmed with so much stuff, and so I just like went to the Lord and cried, like probably for a full 5 minutes. I was like, I don't even know what to pray, but
yeah,
Lord, I know that you're in control and that you got it, and I just pray that you would just help me sleep tonight, like, and he did.
yeah. That's amazing. So good. So good. Well, thank you so much for sharing and for being transparent. And we know that this, I know personally people that have lost people recently close to them. And so I know that it will touch their hearts and give people hope beyond the
Mhm.
suffering, and hope beyond the depression and the sadness and just the loss. So we so appreciate it.